here in Dublin with William DuVall. He's just going to start his European tour, promote his new album. It should have happened 2.5 years ago. So tell me, what have you been doing for those 2.5 years?
Well, a lot of time with the family, which is nice. I hadn't had a layoff of this length of time in forever. I mean, it's the longest layoff I've ever had since I've been playing music publicly. So 15 years old I started. I mean, it's a long time. It's unprecedented. So a lot of time with family and just a lot of changes, like, you know, strengthening the personal, the familial, and the business infrastructures. This was time to do that. It would have needed doing anyway, and this really allowed unfettered time to do that. And of course, you know, writing, like most everyone else who was in this situation who's a writer. As it happens, last year I actually made a record. You know, it's a live in the studio record, but, you know, so it's not like I went into the studio for a month. It was more like I went in the studio for an evening. We cut it live there, straight to lacquer, which means that you're cutting straight into the plastic disc that's going to be used to make your LP. So there's no fixing of any kind that can be done. It's simply not possible. What you play is what you get. It's essentially like doing a live radio broadcast or television broadcast, only with the added technical pressure of someone having to cut a needle into the lacquer live while you're playing. So if anyone messes up, whether it's the lacquer cutting engineer, the recording engineer, or the musicians, everyone has to start over.
Chains is like, I mean, it's bound by a certain set of criteria, you know, studio rules, and you know, it seems that you've taken the whole solo thing by the scruff of the neck and saying, okay, this is my project, I want to deliver it the way I want to deliver it. Do you find it brings you closer to people, like,
yeah,
as regards it as not part, like, I wouldn't say like a corporate entity, but you know what I'm coming from, it's more like a cottage industry?
Yes, very much so, very much so, and I take great pride in that, and I hope to preserve that as long as possible, if not forever, because I just think there's so much to it. I mean, the workload is higher, but the reward is higher as well.
Yeah.
And I think the experience for everyone, myself and any of my supporters, tends to be better.
Now, strangers lost in grief, the hail of noise that life brings. Stone, I had to make my heart to fill the space where you used to be. I'm tired of the view through the veil.
particular genre, you're really exploring, you know, is this something that's been inside you, like that you've wanted to kind of bring out, not, I wouldn't say a softer side, but a very mature, you know, kind of almost, you know, kind of touching areas that Joni Mitchell and people like that would have kind of touched, like folky but rocky, but very deep and very soulful.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, Joni Mitchell's been a major inspiration for many, many years. You know, certainly Dylan, particularly the early Dylan. You know, people like Hendrix and Phil Lynott. That sort of presentation, particularly the single person with an instrument. I mean, you know, because there's lots of bands that incorporate acoustic elements that I love. You know, Zeppelin, and I mean, Alice in Chains has done it for a long time. But I'm talking about like just that single solitary performer stepping out and doing it that way with nothing to hide behind. It's always been something that I've admired in other artists that can do it. And I didn't particularly have some long-standing desire where I said, one day I'm going to do that. But what did happen was I went into the studio to do a demo for one song, Till the Light Guides Me Home, and the demo was meant for another artist that I was considering working with at the time, and so I wanted to just lay the song down really fast so that she could have something to go off of. And while I was there, one, the engineer said, "Man, that's pretty good. You might want to reconsider giving that tune away." And two, the studio was there, the mics were up, and just decided to lay down a few more things while I had the time, you know. So in an afternoon, I laid down 7 songs, I think it was, and there were certain tunes from the Comes With the Fall catalog that always lent themselves to an acoustic, stripped down, one-person presentation. Occasionally, you know, we'd be hanging at parties or something, and, you know, I'd get asked to sing a song, and I just figured these renditions out by having to do it at parties and things. So I decided, you know, I'm here, I might as well record some of that, you know. And so at the end, I walked out of there with, I think, like 7 or 8 songs, and it just became clear that I think you might have something that's releasable here, you know. And so once I arrived at that, I decided to go in and record a few more to fill out the record. And now we have the One Alone album.
You're so cruel when you walk on by. So cruel when you walk on by.
Once I had the One Alone album, then inevitably one thinks of, well, you might as well play some shows behind this. Yeah, let's play this out. And I started playing shows in America, and then I booked this tour for Europe and the UK, and then of course the world went sideways. Everything went upside down, and we had to postpone the European tour for 2.5 years. I did get to play my shows in America, thankfully. At least the ones that had been booked up to that point. I got to do all of those.
You were one day ahead of the pandemic all the time.
I really was.
Yeah, so I was watching that on the you were going up the coast, and every day there was a city being closed down, and you were on to the next one.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. It was really, really bizarre. But I did get to finish. We finished in Seattle with 2 shows at the Triple Door, and I'm very happy that I got to complete that run. Well, now, finally here in Dublin, and I said, you know, that I wouldn't believe it until I was actually on stage, and now we're just an hour or 2 before actually being on stage. So I'm very happy about it. I mean, it's barely had time to really settle in, you know, that it's even happening, because you have all the logistical things of getting over here and maintaining your routine and all of that sort of thing. But I'm extremely happy that we are getting a shot at completing this. It's been a long time coming.
Earlier, I've been talking stuff in a violent mood, fighting when lovers pass. I need needed someone with a quicker rhythm. Dorothy was fast. Well, I'm gonna get a fruit cocktail later tomorrow. Dorothy laughed. She said I sound like a real man to me. Kinda cute, huh? I'm gonna take a bath home. I said cool, but I'm leaving my pants on, 'cause I'm kinda going with someone. She said I sound like a real man to me. And if I turn on the radio, oh, favorite song she said, it was Jody singing. Help me, think I'm falling. Phone rang, she said, "Ooh, Eva's calling. Can't be as cute as you." And then I knew I was through.
This is a real departure, and it's a real kind of, well, it's potentially a one-off because you know, life takes you in so many different directions. I don't know if I'll ever do this kind of touring again. Maybe I will. I mean, again, I'm glad that the door was open to be able to do this at all. But, you know, particularly given the fact that we've all had 2 years, two years plus, you know, kind of taken from us in a way. And there's so many things that I want to do. Maybe I'll get back to this kind of thing, but maybe I won't. And so anyone that is at all interested in coming to see a show like this should really get out there now, because I just don't know where things are going to go from here, and none of us do. We don't know. I mean, you know, given the events in the world, we just don't know about much of anything right now. So I would encourage anyone who's at all interested to come out. It's a very special, very intimate evening, playing small listening rooms, and it's a very cool thing, you know. And get the One Alone album if you want to hear what it's all about. That's what it's all about right there. That's what I'm doing.
I made my own, still afraid.